baby. Welcome in a Thursday edition of East Coast Bias right here on the Ringer Gambling Show for our fine friends over at FanDuel TV. The triple threat, ready to rock and roll. Joe House in Washington, D.C. Raheem the Dream Palmer, living it up in Las Vegas. And yours truly, J.J. John Jastrzemski, home down to Fort in NYC. And we'll get to the team that plays in NYC and the elimination game they're about to get ready for. Knicks, Pacers, Game 5. We got all the plays. We got all the props. We got all the sides. We got you covered there. But, gentlemen, we have a ticket punched to the NBA Finals that will start next Thursday, and they will start in Oklahoma City. And, Joe House, we said it on this pod right after game number 4. Minnesota gave you a valiant effort. A game they easily could have won. Then they returned to the scene of the crime where they struggled mightily. Game 1, they struggled mightily in game 2. And House, this was one of those games, buddy boy. You could have turned this one off basically at the end of the first quarter. The defense for Oklahoma City was overwhelming. They get out in transition. They get easy buckets. SGA, Caruso, on and on we go. And for the first time since Durant, Westbrook, and Harden, House, OKC is back in the finals.
You know what, JJ? It basically ended how it began. I mean, we had a very similar kind of outcome here in Game 5 to what we observed in Game 1. It was way too many Minnesota turnovers. It was the role players not really being up to the task. And it was, Oklahoma City at home with what I believe to be, I'll go back and do the math, they have a home court advantage. I think when you get down into it and look at the numbers of Oklahoma City's performance over the course of these playoffs, you are going to find a genuine home court advantage for Oklahoma City. Minnesota with 14 turnovers in the first half. The game was over at the end of the first quarter. A 9-point output from Minnesota. I was happy I had the Thunder in a lot of different ways, including Minnesota under their team total. I think it was 105.5, something like that. Second game that the T-Wolves were under 100 points total. It was Game 1 and Game 5. Again, that observation. But Dream, this was a proper coronation for the best team in the West.
Yeah, this was an absolute masterclass from the Oklahoma City Thunder. Interesting thing is when Oklahoma City clinched their series against the Denver Nuggets, the score was 125-93. Tonight, the score was 124-94. And, the Thunder, they held the Wolves to a 91.3 offensive rating tonight. That was just the 11th lowest defensive rating of the season. This didn't even make their top 10 defensive performances of the entire year. So that's how dominant this defense has been. I mean, you go back to that first quarter, the Wolves were 3 from 20 from the field, just 9 points. So I think you're looking at one of the best defenses that we've seen in the last 20, 30 years. I mean, I think you got to go back to the 04 Pistons to find a defense that's as good as the Oklahoma City Thunder. And I think we're a couple of weeks away. And I said this on Twitter, and a lot of people can be mad, but I'm going to say it again. SGA, Chet, and J-Dub, we're a couple of weeks away from people saying that they're a better big three than Durant, Westbrook, and Harden. And I'm going to say it now. I said it a year ago. I think it's going to prove to be a fact in a couple of weeks.
Listen, Raheem, they're 4 wins away from an NBA championship. And the dirty little secret, House, about this Oklahoma City team, with the draft capital that they have, with a first-round pick waiting in the wings, ready to go and play basketball maybe as soon as next year, and the youth and the just upward trajectory of the franchise as a whole, you kind of look at it for Sam Presti, who, yes, built that first team, came oh so close. They lost to Miami in the finals. They weren't ready to go and beat LeBron James. They had their shot the year they played, Golden State up 3-1, the Klay Thompson game in Game 6. But Sam Presti has been one of the Zen masters of drawing up basketball teams. They were in the lottery a couple of years ago, House, and now they win a Western Conference. They're going to be heavy favorites in the NBA Finals no matter who they play.
They are minus 770 right now on FanDuel Sportsbook over the Indiana Pacers. There you
go. That's all you need to know. Minus 770. And House, this is only the beginning.
I mean, they are built to the credit of Presti, and you made the absolute proper observation, JJ. They're built to replace parts as they go along. Remember, the thing that they did this past offseason that everybody pointed to as the thing that was going to put them over the top was the acquisition of Alex Caruso and the acquisition of Isaiah Hartenstein. And both of those were features of good planning. They are in a position where Josh Giddey was expendable, and they could go ahead and get a guy who was more or less a specialist in the form of Caruso as a defensive guy. And they needed the size to go along with Chet Holmgren. They needed Hartenstein's bulk, and they got it. And a high IQ player in Hartenstein because they had the cap space. They could pay him, and the Knicks could not. And that's the kind of team building that this Oklahoma City Thunder is capable of. And with the picks they have and the youth they have, it looks like they have the foundation for something that is sustainable, which is remarkable in this era of aprons and a hard cap and so forth, Dream.
Yeah, absolutely remarkable. And it's just, you look at the fact that, I think they have the 15th and the 24th picks in this year's draft. So it's just not going to stop. They got 10 additional first round picks through 2031. So, that big three, they're going to be able to pay those guys, and then they're going to be able to replace everybody else. So I think we have a potential dynasty in the making, despite the fact that you have the second aprons and everything else that's just limiting teams right now.
Now, they're going to be a monstrous favorite. You hit on it. If it's Indiana and OKC, you're talking about a minus 770 series price. That said, Raheem, I think there's a way you can look at this OKC team going into the NBA Finals. They're wagging in these home games. House hit on it. It's one of the few rare home court advantages that are still left in the NBA. It is an impossible place to play. This Thunder team and their defense feeds off of the crowd. But we've seen the Thunder, and you've pointed this out multiple times. They're not covering these road games. Is that something that we just got to blindly rock with here going into the NBA Finals, where it's like, hey, OKC at home, you have to look at them differently than OKC maybe on the road, where they're going to be laying numbers? I figure they're going to be laying 3, 4, 5, whatever it might be against Indiana and the Knicks. But is that a way to maybe start thinking about the NBA Finals?
Yeah, I think you definitely have to think about it in that manner. I mean, the Thunder are 8-1 straight up and against the spread at home in the postseason. The only game they lost was that weird game.
The fluky Denver game, yeah.
Yeah, that's the only game that they lost. So I definitely think you have to approach it from that standpoint. But I think we need to figure out what happens in this Pacers-Knicks series before we approach anything. I mean, obviously, if this series goes to 7 or something like that, or it gets extended, I think that changes things as well. So we just kind of have to approach it on a case-by-case basis, see what happens in, this series, and see what happens in the first 2 games at home for Oklahoma City.
Yeah, on that note, on the FanDuel Sportsbook right now, you can indulge in a little bit of hypothetical wagering, and you can bet on the Oklahoma City Thunder to defeat the Indiana Pacers at minus 330. That's an exact matchup opportunity. You jump into the finals tab under the NBA on the FanDuel Sportsbook, and I'm going to go ahead and play that. I'm going to play it tonight. I'll play it tomorrow before the Knicks game. I mean, tonight. I'm going to keep playing it because I think that will be the ultimate outcome. And the only thing that I'm sacrificing right now is the possibility that there's some price adjustment if the Knicks hold court at home. But I'd like that price. I'm just going to go ahead and get it.
Quickly, boys. Raheem, I'll start with you. Would you be glass half full, glass half empty on Minnesota after this series wraps up? They're in the West Finals for the second straight year, but they go out with an absolute whimper. Where do you stand on them?
Glass half full, most definitely. I think people forget that Anthony Edwards is only 23 years old. I think he's going to be 24 in August. SGA is about 3 years older than him. So,
which is hard to believe. That is hard to believe.
And this is their second straight conference finals. So if you ask me, the Minnesota Timberwolves are ahead of schedule. And, obviously I think the biggest key that we saw tonight is they need a secondary ball creator, because it can't just be Anthony Edwards creating on the perimeter. They need another guy who can take the pressure off of him. And they didn't have that tonight. And I think you saw Oklahoma City's defense really cause him some problems. And, he just doesn't know how to necessarily impact the game when they take the ball out of his hands. So I think they get a secondary creator, make things easier for Anthony Edwards. And I think Minnesota is going to be there eventually. So, I mean, Anthony Edwards still 23 years old, so you definitely got to go glass half full.
Yeah, JJ, I'm in the exact same boat. I couldn't agree with Dream anymore. And it's not just Anthony Edwards' age. Jaden McDaniels is 24. Naz Reid is 25. Nickeil Alexander-Walker is 26. Terrence Shannon, who got some run in these playoffs as a rookie, showed some promise. He's 24. So that's a core. Those are guys all on the same kind of timeline. And, you know, the thing that they are missing, Dream hit the nail on the head. They need some ball handling. I mean, Mike Conley, God bless him, 0 points tonight. Now, Rudy Gobert and Mike Conley combined for 40 minutes and 2 points. Congratulations. That's not going to get the job done against the Thunder. And the Thunder are their competition. So they can go ahead. Tim Connolly's very smart, the architect there in Minnesota. I think that they will game plan and build up for how do we beat the Thunder. That's their goal now. And the way it will come is with perimeter help and depth and guys that can create.
And a very interesting offseason for one Julius Randle that we're going to spend a whole lot of time discussing whether or not the Timberwolves decide to bring him back after they said sayonara to Karl Anthony Towns just a year ago. Well, the Timberwolves say that's that. The Thunder will be going to the finals. Who will they be playing? When we come back, we start diving into Pacers, Knicks, Game 5. Knicks, any prayer. Forget about Game 5. Winning 3 in a row. That's going a lot. Boys are coming right back. Welcome back to East Coast Bias right here on FanDuel TV, Ringer Gambling Show. And we now turn our attention to the Eastern Conference Finals, where my beloved New York Knicks will be facing elimination later on this evening after giving up 130 points to the Indiana Pacers. And boys, I'd love to come on and tell you, oh, it was fluky like Game 1 or the Pacers stole the game. They didn't steal anything. They whooped the Knicks, pillar to post. They scored 40-something points in the first quarter. The Knicks turned the basketball over 15-plus times, leading to 10 zillion Indiana Pacer fast breaks. And how sometimes the NBA can be very star-driven, and the stars dictate the terms of what you're going to see. Well, Tyrese Halliburton was basically perfect. Pascal Siakam was absolutely incredible and really has been great in every single one of these games. And the two big players for the Pacers, especially in Game 4, outperformed Jalen Brunson, who was very quiet after the first quarter, continues to have defensive struggles. It was a solid workmanlike game for Karl Anthony Towns, not necessarily on him, but Siakam was better. Halliburton was better. And that's why we're staring at a 3-1 Pacer advantage right in the face, my man.
JJ, you're right. You used the most important word, and that was defense. The thing that has put Indiana in this position is their ability to assert their will and play at their pace. And the Knicks, this was, to me, the most complete game that we've seen out of the Pacers from beginning to end, where they had an aggressive game plan. They pushed the ball. And it really felt like the Knicks could not get a stop when the Knicks had to get a stop to put themselves back in. Now, they did a great job in the latter half of the fourth quarter, making it feel competitive, the Knicks. And you, once again, I'm sorry to say this out loud, JJ, Mikal Bridges had a couple of looks that really might have put them, made things feel a little bit more interesting, but those didn't go down. And ultimately, across the board, it was the extraordinary performance by Halliburton, an awesome performance by Siakam. And if you want to be glass half full about it, you would say, JJ, that this Knicks team this is the first season with these guys. Like, let's be a little bit fair. They are in the Eastern Conference Finals. And, if there wasn't, this incredible, unprecedented, once-in-a-lifetime Game 1 outcome, it would be 2-2. And, the Knicks would be, sort of right there in it. The Pacers did what the Pacers have been doing in these playoffs. And so they are on the cusp of taking this. But I don't think that there's anything for the Knicks to be particularly frustrated by. This Pacers team is complete. They got a great game out of Mathurin. This is what this Pacers team is all about, Dream. They can grab guys and put them in and give them minutes and get contributions from unexpected places. And that is the reason, to me, a complete game out of them. And that's why they're up 3-1.
Yeah, I mean, they're just the deeper team. And at the end of the day, they got 10 guys playing. And, if one guy doesn't play well, the other guy plays well. I mean, we've been talking about TJ McConnell coming off the bench and playing well. Well, yesterday, he only had 6 points. Benedict Mathurin came off the bench, and he's been struggling. He had 20 points. And then when you combine that with the fact that Tyrese Halliburton is playing out of his mind, he might be a top 10 player at this point in time. He had 32 points, 15 assists, 12 rebounds, and 0 turnovers. For the Pacers to be able to play at this breakneck pace, they played 103 possessions yesterday, and Tyrese Halliburton has the ball in his hand all this time and have 0 turnovers. I mean, that's a scary proposition. You're just not going to beat a team who isn't turning the ball over very much. And then obviously the Knicks, they had 17 turnovers yesterday. It just puts them in a bad spot because, this Pacers team, I mean, they're running up on the floor, they're wearing you down, and they're not turning the ball over, and they're scoring points at will.
Raheem, I'm glad you brought up Halliburton as far as his brilliance in game number 4. There was a conversation that was had in the NBA circles back in January, February. They had that anonymous poll as far as the overrated is concerned. Anytime I hear overrated, I go back to Jerry McNamara at Syracuse in 2006, and he went on a run for the ages. Joe House, I remember it well, was a senior in high school, cutting class, going to watch Jerry Mack win 4 straight games at Madison Square Garden, take down Rudy Gay in UConn, and it's a run that will live forever. Well, Tyrese Halliburton is in the middle of one of these all-time playoff runs. I mean, let's acknowledge
it, fellas.
Did you
just compare Jerry McNamara to Tyrese Halliburton?
I'm comparing the runs. Excuse me. No. Now, Jerry Mack is near and dear to my heart, Joe.
I understand.
We're talking about the college sphere of rising to the occasion in the Big East and being called overrated, which he was. And Jim Boeheim had some choice words for the media. We wouldn't have won 10 blanking games without Jerry McNamara. Maybe Rick Carlisle should have went on a Jim Boeheim type rant. But Raheem, he is playing like a top 10 player in the sport. And I think a lot of people wanted the sort of validation of him taking over these games in the biggest of spots. Look at what he did in Game 5, closing the deal against Milwaukee. We saw it in the Cleveland series in Game 2 with the game-winning shot. And I think this is probably his most virtuoso, complete performance of the postseason. This guy's an absolute stud. If you don't see that, you're not paying attention.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I'm watching a new version of Steve Nash at this point in time. I mean, you got a guy who he gets everybody involved, but when he calls his own number, I mean, he's lethal. I mean, so it's scary. And you got to be looking at a lot of those teams that passed on Halliburton and wonder what they're doing. You got to be looking at the Kings. They had Halliburton.
Oh my God, what an awful trade. They had Halliburton and De'Aaron Fox. House. Now they got neither.
Well, good luck to the Kings. I do want to bounce something off of you. I'm glad we're having this Halliburton conversation because one of the wagers that I was looking at, and I was, doing this with my chin for a minute, Halliburton is still available to be the Eastern Conference Finals MVP on the FanDuel Sportsbook at -550. Now, Dream has a phrase. What do they call it? A jump off the bridge? What is that called?
A bridge jumper prop.
Bridge jumper. And I think this price fits it, but I have to tell you guys, I'm kind of inclined to do it. Just get something down here, a couple units, and just lay the extraordinary juice, because there is a perfect hedge in place, which is Mr. Siakam available at 31-1 odds.
That's exactly where my pushback was going to be. I think you're onto something. I think if Indiana wins the series, Halliburton's probably going to win the award. My only pushback would be, House, what if Siakam in a closeout game goes for, 30, 35 points, or it gives you a similar stat line to what we saw in Game 2? Then maybe he could, dare I say, snake it. I mean, it wouldn't be anybody other than those two guys, or, of course, the Knicks coming back and winning the series, right?
Yeah, well, you can play the Knicks series price that way.
My pushback is that if you look at the series price, it's Indiana Pacers -590. Meanwhile, Halliburton is -550. You're only playing 40 cents more to take the Pacers for the series, and then you cover yourself in case of Siakam goes out there and drops 40 or something in the closeout game.
You're laying. That's the thing, House. You're laying 550. You know what I mean?
I get it. I understand. It's why but I was pondering it because there aren't a lot of scenarios out there. Save injury, and I'll just knock on wood. Everybody can hear this nice and loud. Other than injury, where I think that Halliburton's not going to win it because he's really distinguished himself, and it's been really impressive. Even if the Knicks win Game 5, and then the Pacers close out 4-2, I still think it's Halliburton if he's healthy.
So, guys, I want to bring this up because Halliburton's getting a lot of flowers as he should be with the way he's playing this series. Raheem, I'm surprised with what we've gotten out of Jalen Brunson. Now, I understand you want to tell me Indiana can exploit him. Indiana is going after him defensively. Yeah, that all may be true. I feel like Game 1, Knicks played their best. Jalen Brunson was on the bench. Game 3, they had to come back. He's in foul trouble. Now, Game 2, he played very, very well. And he almost willed the Knicks back in Game 2 basically by himself. But for a guy who has been so clutch, for a guy who has risen to the occasion so many times in these postseasons. I mean, that's all the guy has literally done since he's put a Knick uniform on over the last 3 years. Are you surprised, Dream, with the way Brunson, forget about what the series score might be, Brunson specifically, are you surprised how much he struggled in this series?
I'm not. And I think it's not about Brunson. It's not about what the Indiana Pacers are doing. It's more so the fact that we know that the NBA postseason, it's a war of attrition. And look at the load that he's had to carry throughout this postseason. You go back to that Pistons series. You go back to the Boston series. He's had to carry a large and a significant role on this team. And, I've spoken about this in earlier series about how the heliocentric nature of this offense, it's not necessarily doing the Knicks pretty well, if you ask me, because at some point in time, other guys have to step up. And I mean, we saw Cat step up in this series, but I just think you have to get more guys involved, and you can't just play Brunson ball. So I think he's starting to wear down with the fact that the Pacers are attacking him defensively. They're putting him in every single action. And then when you combine that with the fact that he has a high usage rate on offense, at some point in time, you just wear down. So I'm not surprised.
Yeah, JJ, I couldn't agree more. And this fits very nicely with the observation I was trying to make about let's be gracious with this Knicks team. Remember, he didn't play very much in March in the run-up to these playoffs because he was injured. And the Knicks did have a little bit of an opportunity to embark on a little bit of a chemistry experiment. And they found some things that work. We're watching another version of a chemistry experiment with these Knicks. Just think, for the first time, we were reminded that Landry Shamet was on the Knicks. That was 2 games ago. I mean, this is kind of this iteration of the Knicks. They acquired 2, franchise-altering players last summer. This is the first season with these players. And so the Brunson ball approach ultimately will not be successful. Ultimately, it got them to the Eastern Conference Finals. That's pretty gosh darn good.
Haven't been there in 25 years, House. Just a little food for thought. 25 years.
Pretty good. Should be pretty happy. But they should be using this offseason and into the next season to now try and build themselves into something more complete to get the depth that they need. Maybe they have it. Maybe a couple of these guys can play. Maybe, Deuce McBride and some of these, if Mitchell Robinson can contribute, they need a little more help up front. But I just think that we're at the end of the road. It's not Brunson's fault.
It's interesting, House. I thought after the Celtics series was shaking out the way it was, where it's like, oh, the opportunity is now. The Knicks got to do it. Like, if not now, then when? And I know the West is loaded and OKC's not going anywhere and San Antonio's coming and we could go through Jokic and all the teams out West. The Eastern Conference, look, Indiana, they're up 3-1 in the series. They're 1 game away from knocking out the Knicks again. House, I got news for you. I'm not going to be surprised we're in the exact same spot next year, and these teams are matching up again with Jason Tatum and all the issues for the Celtics. Cleveland is charming soft. Wake me up when they go deep into the postseason and win. I know you like them more than I do. I know they have talent, but they're soft, and until I see them win, it's fair to question. Raheem, you like Orlando. Again, a lot. Detroit, I like. They have a great chance, fellas, to be right back here next year. and build upon this. Like, I don't think that's a crazy, crazy take for him. Am I hallucinating, or am I going to be looking back saying this was their best shot?
Bill made a great point on his podcast. When it comes to the Knicks, you got 260 win teams who are eliminated in the second round. You got a Tatum injury. You got the Cavs flaming out. You got a Giannis injury. Well, excuse me, not a Giannis injury. You got a Dame injury. This was like the perfect time for the Knicks to go to the finals and make their run. I mean, you got home court advantage. You're favorites in the Eastern Conference Finals, and you don't make it. That's a scary proposition because I do think, a lot of these teams are going to make moves over the summer. We don't know what's going to happen, but I think the sky is the limit for this Knicks team. I think this, like House said, this is year number 1. So they do have some time to put it together. But this year in particular, they really should have. I mean, they should be in a better position than being down 3-1.
Bottom line, you had a 14-point lead with 2 and change left. And all of these narratives we're talking about involving the Knicks are fair. If you win that game, what is our conversation, fellas, if this series is 2-2 heading back to Madison Square Garden? I think it's fair to say it's drastically different. May like Indiana in Game 5, which we're going to get to, but it's drastically different. And here's the moral of the story. You got a 14-point lead with 2 minutes to go, win a game.
And they were up 17 in the fourth quarter. We can't forget that. They were up 17.
They were up 9 with 50 seconds left. You can't forget that.
All-timer. Well, boys, when we come back, I think we're all in agreement. The end of the road is coming at some point for the Knicks. I hope I'm wrong. I hope we're talking about the Knicks and the Oklahoma City Thunder or whoever in the NBA Finals. It's asking a lot, but we got a Game 5 to break down. Is this Knicks team finally going to get a win on their home floor? Or is it over in the Eastern Conference Finals? And is it over for our friends over at TNT Thursday night? We'll dive into that next. All right, boys. Pacers Knicks, Game 5. Line opened at 5.5, got down to 4.5. Now I'm seeing 5s within the market. The total in this game, after what was an insanely high-scoring game in Game 4, opened at 223.5. It is now down to 222.5. Raheem Palmer, I will start with you, but I'm going to kind of preface teeing you up this way. I think if you like the Indiana Pacers to cover the number in Game 5, I think you like the Indiana Pacers to win the game and end the series. Do you agree or disagree?
No.
Interesting. So you see close game potential. Okay.
Yeah, I think there's close game potential. Like, I think all of these games, for the most part, have been close outside of, even the Game 4. The Pacers won by 9, but that was still a close game. So
close-ish. I'd say close-ish for him,
Yeah, but I mean, there's a world in which the Knicks could win and not cover the spread.
Okay, interesting. See, I kind of don't see it that way. Because I think if the game, I'll tell you why, Raheem. I understand your mathematical point and what we've seen in the first 4 games. I just think if the game is close, Indiana's going to smell it. They have executed better in this series, and they'll find a way to win a game. That's just my 2 cents. I think if the game is close, the Knicks are going to lose.
So I honestly am leaning more in the direction of Dream, even though universally, JJ, I subscribe to the theory that play the money line for the team if you think that they're going to cover, and I will do that. We'll get to my bet soon enough, but these fourth quarters between these 2 teams have been nip and tuck, and it is the case for sure. Like, again, if Mikal Bridges knocked down a couple of those shots, the Knicks would have covered potentially. Like, there was a reasonable case. It got away very quickly, but I thought that cover was still live for the Knicks last night. I had the Knicks grabbing the 3.5 points on Wednesday. It just didn't come to on Tuesday. It just didn't come to pass because they didn't knock down the open ones.
Now, Indiana has been in this spot now twice in the postseason. They took care of business against the Cavaliers in a Game 5. They took care of business against the Milwaukee Bucks in a Game 5. Raheem, are you surprised this line has kind of creeped back towards 5?
Yes and no. So, I suggested on Twitter right after the game, and we know after Game 4, Karl Anthony Towns was a little banged up. I suggested everybody just grab the 5.5 with the Indiana Pacers because I think this number is too high. So it's interesting. We saw this number go to a 4.5 and then right back up to 5. But historically, this has not been a good spot for teams who are up 3-1. If you go back historically, teams who are up 3-1 In game 5 on the road, they're just 12-32 straight up, 27%, and they're just 19-25 against the spread, 43%. The last time we saw this, the Knicks were on the road against the Celtics without Jason Tatum, and the Celtics blew the Knicks out of the water. Now, we saw the Pacers cover and win in this same spot against the Cavaliers, but they were getting blown out in that first half against the Cavaliers. And then they wore the Cavaliers down and ended up winning that game outright. But historically, this has not been a good spot for teams who are up 3-1. So I understand why the line is what it is. But me personally, I think the Pacers are going to cover this game and might even win outright.
You know, my feeling on it, House, Raheem, Pacers haven't lost back-to-back games in basically 80 days. They have been as hot as anybody. I don't think the Knicks are going to win this series. That said, this is a very prideful team. This has been a very gutty team. They have lost already so many games on their home floor. How it's like it's not quite the same spot because you don't have that dangling carrot of motivation of winning one for Jason Tatum. But it does, to Raheem's point, remind me a lot of the Celtic-Knicks series we just watched, where the Knicks basically are like, not in our house, not tonight. They may take us down. They are not taking us down in this particular game. And I think we're going to get the best out of Brunson. I think we're going to get the best out of the Knicks. I think it's going to be a big night at Madison Square Garden. They're due for one. You tell me the Knicks are going to lose 3 games at Madison Square Garden in this series? I'll take the Knicks. I don't feel great about it because they could lose a game. They absolutely could. But I think it's going to be a big night at the Garden. That's my gut.
Yeah, I'm worried that it's going to be a big night in the Garden for Tyrese Halliburton, who, even with his premature choke in game 1, came out and delivered in overtime. But you did key into the way that I'm going to play this. I am going to be on the Pacers side. I'm going to grab the points with the Pacers. But I do think that there is a Brunson game coming. So I'm going to be all over his props. I'm looking at 3 or more made threes for Brunson to score at least 30 points, each of those individual props, and then I parlay those together because that's what I do is parlay these props.
I mean, I did it with Brunson with the points. It was worthwhile. The Knicks were not, House.
Right. Plus 139 of FanDuel Sportsbook, that parlay right now. So that's how I'm going to, show my support for the idea of Knicks pride. But this Pacers team seems to have the Knicks dialed a little bit. So I want to be on the Pacers side for the game.
Raheem, Knicks plus 440 to win this series. Is that lower than it should be, where it should be, or higher than it should be?
When I look at my model, I'm way higher on the market on the Indiana Pacers. I think FanDuel has Pacers minus 590. I'm in the 1230 range. So I just don't see any way in which the Knicks come back and win this series. Now, I mean, according to the market, it is possible, but I'm just not buying it just because I just think, obviously the Knicks have been playing a few more guys, Landry Shamet and DeLon Wright, but they're reliant on Jalen Brunson. They're relying on Cat. They're relying on a smaller rotation. And I just think the Pacers are just going to wear this team down. I have the Pacers winning this series 92.5% of the time. So I don't see any value on the New York Knicks at all.
Now, if we got to a game 6, House, are they going to jack up that line on us? Because you look, Indiana was 1.5? They were 2.5 in game 4. We're not going to do a pod if indeed there's a game 6 on Saturday night. Your gut, you think we're paying a tax on Indiana in game 6, 3.5, 4.5?
Yes, I do.
I think so too.
Yeah, I wouldn't be shocked if it opened up, Pacers minus 4. That would be my guess.
You think that, Raheem? We'll see a jacked up line if the Knicks win tonight?
What was the Pacers were laying, 2?
2.5. Might have gotten to 3, might have closed at 3, but it was in that 2.5, 3 range.
No, I think we'll see about the same numbers.
Wow. And I think the public will be all over Indiana in that spot.
I think you might get some equal action.
Why? Just because of New York and the brand?
Yeah, it's New York. And then, it depends on how New York wins. Obviously, it depends on what happens in game 5, how the Knicks win it. If the Knicks go out there and beat the Pacers by 10, 15 points, obviously that's going to impact the market. But if the Knicks go out there and win a buzzer beater, then I think you'll see more Pacers money. So I just think, game 5 decides pretty much everything.
One more prop I want to get in there. It's so weird with these variations for the Indiana Pacers. House, I don't care if it lost in game 4. McConnell's gone over 10 points in 3 to 4 games. I'm going right back. I'm going right back to it. Dude, he barely impacted the game in game 4 and still had 6 points. Like, I've seen it. The Knicks have no answer guarding him. I'm playing the overs for McConnell again. I'm telling you now, I'm doing it.
I'm not going to stop you. Plus 164 right now to score at least 10 points on the FanDuel Sportsbook.
Doing it again.
I mean, go ahead. Plus odds. Go ahead. I'm not going to stop you.
Boys, a lot more coming your way. When we come back, we'll hit the grab bag. We have a big golf tournament coming up this weekend. There's a big baseball matchup this weekend. Teams that won the World Series might be getting reacquainted. Who's got a better shot at getting to the Fall Classic? We're going to ask one of the guys. That's all coming your way. It is. All right, it's time for the East Coast Bias Ring grab bag. Variety of different topics coming the way of the fellas. Raheem, you're getting this one first because this weekend it might be upstaged by Game 6 in the conference finals if the Knicks cooperate against the Pacers. But whether they do or they don't, you are going to have a World Series rematch at Chavez Ravine. It will be the Yankees and the Dodgers, and I will see replays of the Freddie Freeman home run against Nestor Cortez 10 zillion times. I'm sure they're going to have the flashbacks to the 5th inning that will live in infamy that I'm going to have to see again and again. But I have a take on something. I want to see if you agree. I think it is more likely, Raheem, the Yankees represent their league in the World Series than the Dodgers represent their league in the World Series. Am I sipping crazy New York Kool-Aid, or am I onto something? Fact or fiction?
I think you're onto something. And the reason why is because of pitching. I mean, you look at the Dodgers. They're 19th in ERA right now. You look at the New York Yankees. They have a lot better pitching right now. And at the end of the day, we know pitching wins in the postseason. It wins World Series. Right now, the Yankees have the best run differential in the MLB. And I mean, you look at the Dodgers, I just don't think the pitching is there. Now, that hasn't mattered last year. I mean, it felt like they had like 1.5 pitches and the offense was good enough. But I'm always going to go with the pitching. So I agree with your take.
The reason I feel this way is not necessarily that the Yankees are better than the Dodgers, but I see the National League and I see your Phillies and I see the Mets and I see the Braves and I see the Padres and the Chicago Cubs who are playing some really good baseball. And I see that league. And then in the American League, it's the Yankees, the Tigers, and who else? So I just think the road to the World Series, much like the Eastern Conference in the NBA, is going to be set up for teams to go and have success. And who knows? There might be a team that comes out of nowhere, goes on a run. Hey, the Mets last year at this time were 8-9 games under 500 and found their way to the NLCS. So I know there's a long, long way to go. But assuming Aaron Judge and Max Fried stay healthy, 2 major disclaimers. The road could not be set up any better for the Yankees, and they look better right now than they did a year ago. And that's what Mr. Soto taking his talents to Queens. Raheem did think the Yankees be better without Juan Soto, and it's not Juan Soto. It's the rest of the team, big boy. They're better.
Yeah, I actually have a take. I think if the Cubs can get some pitching, that 14-1 to win the World Series has some value.
I like it. Their lineup has been fantastic. How good has Kyle Tucker been? I mean, you talk about a move. The Yankees could have got their hands on that guy. But the Astros and the Yankees making the trade. Come on. But Cubs, interesting number. And they're going to win their division, I think, going away. Okay, Joe House, this one is for you, good sir. We are dealing with the road to the U.S. Open. We have a couple of juicy tournaments before we hit the U.S. Open. I want 3 golfers to consider other than Scottie Scheffler for this weekend. Who should we be targeting?
You have to first decide whether you want to bet on somebody other than Scottie to win, or if you're comfortable with trying to get some plus money on some finishing positions. I like the finishing positions kind of play. And on fairway rolling this week, I hope everybody is listening. Program up. We are looking for ball strikers because we are at Muirfield Village, a.k.a. Jack's Place in Dublin, Ohio, for the Memorial. And he has renovated this golf course a couple times since 2019. the winning score, the average is 10 under par. So what you want is guys that are accurate, that can reach greens in regulation, that are going to be successful and efficient. And those guys are players, not necessarily that are going to win, but that can finish inside the top 20. And you only have 72 players in this event. So I'm looking at odds on Tommy Fleetwood for a top 20. I'm looking at odds on Corey Connors to top 20. I like Shane Lowry to top 20. Now, if I am going to go on in the direction of a winner that's not Scotty Scheffler, I'm looking at Hideki Matsuyama. And the reason for that is because he's a horse for a course a little bit here. He has 4 top 10s in his 11 starts, tied for 8th last year at this venue, and he's coming in a little bit under the radar. He's at the same price as Jordan Spieth at 35-1, and there are a bunch of guys with far less decorated results than Hideki at lower odds. So I'm looking for an odds play. If I'm not playing Scotty, the prohibitive favorite at plus 280, Hideki Matsuyama 35-1 on the FanDuel Sportsbook.
Now, this one should get us in the football spirit because OTAs are starting to get cooking. You're starting to wet the whistle a little bit. I know the NBA Finals is going to take center stage. Then we're going to go through the whole summer. Baseball season will be with us. We'll have some fun with some WNBA. There'll be some golf. There'll be some this. There'll be some that. But then we'll be revving up the engines in like late July, early August, going through all our division previews. Raheem, in late May, the quarterback that will play the most games for the 2025 Cleveland Browns will be who?
Wow.
I told you this was a fun one.
I'm trying to remember their quarterback room. It's like 5 of them.
Yes,
there's a lot of competition.
Joe Flacco.
Okay, well, I'll help you out.
Do it.
You have Joe Flacco making his triumphant return to Cleveland. He is a part of the quarterback room. You have former Pittsburgh Steeler quarterback Kenny Pickett. He will be making his return to the AFC North. He is choice 2. Then you have Dylan Gabriel, the Oregon quarterback that was taken ahead of Deion's son. So Gabriel, Sanders, Pickett, Flacco. Gut would probably tell you Flacco be their week 1 quarterback, I guess. But I didn't ask for week 1. I said for the whole season.
I think it's going to be Kenny Pickett. Because, look, Deshaun Watson is out. I think Flacco, he's getting to that age to where you can't trust him to play a full season. I don't think you could even trust him to win the job over 4 other young guys. And then I think Dylan Gabriel and I think Shedeur Sanders, I think both of them are going to be a work in progress. So I don't expect them to really get starts until the end of the year. I think Kenny Pickett is going to be the guy.
House?
So I don't want to just take Dream's answer, even though I do think Kenny Pickett will get the most starts. 17 starts out there. It's more likely than not that he gets, a 7 or 8. Flacco is in the pure backup kind of position. We watched him last year with Indianapolis. He just can't move. I really like Shedeur Sanders. I really think that he's going to get an opportunity, I think he's ready to play professional football. I'm not worried about him being afraid of the moment. I'm not worried about him being overwhelmed by the speed. I'm not afraid of him. It's going to be the first time in his life that he gets to play with players that are across the board at a level that I think he's going to be at. He's going to walk in and be up that guy. So I really like the idea of Sanders. And honestly, I'll be looking for some markets to get down on some Shedeur Sanders this over the course of the summer as the NFL opens up and these markets open up. Whatever his props end up being, I'm going to be long Sanders. I really do think that he's got it, and I think he's ready to prove it.
That makes 2 of us. I think it's going to be Shedeur Sanders. Now, full disclosure,
wow.
I do not think it's going to be in week 1.
No.
I think it's going to take some time. Here's my narrative on it, Raheem. Browns are going to stink. I'm not a believer. I do not think they're going to be particularly good. You have 2 top teams clearly in the AFC North with my Baltimore Ravens, who are given to go over basically every single year. Then you have Cincinnati, who has Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and all of that high-powered offense that's going to be able to go and score 30-plus points whenever the hell they want. I know you have Myles Garrett. I know. Kevin Stefanski can do the best he can. He draws up offense. I don't see it. I just think it is going to be a long year in Cleveland. How do you sell hope with a young quarterback? That's Shedeur Sanders.
So you guys are buying Sanders over Gabriel?
Yes.
Even though
I'm not a Gabriel guy at all.
They drafted Gabriel before Sanders.
Correct. You're right. By that logic, I should be buying Gabriel. No, I think Sanders will outperform him.
I agree.
Oh, wow.
I think he's NFL ready. I mean, he was in the worst possible situation through the combination of that offensive line, the way they use motion, the skill players on the outside, other than one guy. I just think that we barely scratched the surface. I really think that he's a legit NFL quarterback.
Chew on that, Raheem. We got all summer to start thinking about it. We can put it in the memory bank, and then if we don't see Shedeur Sanders at any point or he doesn't even make the team, you can mock Joe House and I until the cows come home. So I look forward to that. Look forward to that. Boys, when we come back, best bets, Game 5, Eastern Conference Finals. Can I convince my guys to get on board with the Knicks staying alive? We'll have to see. Coming up next. Gents, before we say goodbye, Game 5 will be the final game in the Eastern Conference Finals, will be the final NBA on TNT telecast. Knicks, Pacers, Knicks laying 5. Joe House, I don't think I'm going to like what you're about to say, but the floor is yours.
Oh, JJ, you underestimate me. I do think it's going to be the final game of the Eastern Conference Finals, but my best bet is a show of pride by the New York Knicks in the form of Jalen Brunson. I love the idea of Jalen Brunson's 3 or more made threes. Jalen Brunson to score at least 30 points. That parlay pays plus 139 on the FanDuel Sportsbook. That is my best bet, JJ.
Dream.
Yeah, I'm taking the Indiana Pacers plus 5.5. I just think this line is way too high. I think this number should be around 3 at 5.5. Give me the Pacers. 5 is good as well. So that's what I'm looking at.
So I understand where you're coming from, Raheem. That said, the Knicks are a tough, gritty, resilient group. I can't see them losing 3 straight games in Madison Square Garden in this Eastern Conference Final. I'm going to lay the 5, and I'm going to have a little fun with you, Joe House. I'm going to take the Knicks to win the game. I'm doing the exact same bet I made in Game 4 because I feel good about it. 25 plus. Actually, let's jack it up. 30 plus for Jalen Brunson. Knicks to win the game. And I will also take a sliver on -5. They're not winning this series. They're not winning 3 straight. But Thursday night, they will live to die another day. That's going to do it. For Raheem Palmer and his Pacers +5. Joe House feeling a big day from Brunson. That makes 2 of us. JJ, John Jastrzemski signing off. We'll be back Monday. We'll start looking ahead to the NBA Finals. Can't wait for that. Or will we? Hope or not. Boys are out. Be good, everybody.